Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Healthcare Innovation Podcast. My name is Dr. Purav Gandhi. I run a global life sciences and healthcare management consulting firm called as Healthark Insights, based out of India. Healthark Insights is an organization that I started 7 years ago. Coming from a medical background, being a physician, I always was interested in starting a business which kind of can help advise businesses at the same time give due importance to science. And hence we started this company. Now we are a team of around 65 members based out of India, focusing on life science and healthcare strategy, real world evidence, and digital health. We do a lot of strategy and planning work in the area of real world evidence, where we help organizations understand the kind of data that they require, evaluate the data quality, conduct due diligence, identify the right data sources, do the planning and design of these studies, and help find the right execution partners. We have had the opportunity to work with several organizations, both in the Western world, like US and Europe, as well as some of the fledgling organizations in the Asia Pacific region. And we believe that the area of real world evidence is just getting started. There is so much more potential to be unlocked. And so, speaking of real world evidence, today with us, we have our esteemed guest, Dr. Namal Wijesinghe. Dr. Namal heads clinical operations for Remedium One for last 14 years, which is a clinical research organization based out of Sri Lanka. In addition to this, he's also been an advisor to the Ministry of Health at Sri Lanka. In terms of his specialization, he has been a practicing anesthetist for last 15 years. In last couple of years, his area of interest has been sports medicine. Dr. Namal is also an active academician. He runs his own YouTube channel and spreads medical education through that channel. Thank you so much, Dr. Namal. Welcome to this episode.
Thanks, Purav. Thanks for having me today.
So welcome, Dr. Namal. Maybe you can start with a brief introduction in the work that Remedium One does.
So as you said, like Remedium One has been in the field of clinical trials for the last 10 to 15 years in Sri Lanka. And the interesting trials that we have done has really created many changes in the field of medicine, as well as like we have drawn many investigators to Sri Lanka and many investors to Sri Lanka in terms of doing trial work. So the Remedium One is basically a clinical trial organization, one center of excellence in Sri Lanka that has run many trials in many therapeutic areas. So when we started trial activities, basically we were focused on diabetes, hypertension, and many non-communicable diseases. But so far now we have expanded very broadly in terms of many diseases and many therapeutic entities, and giving a lot of good clinical data to the society. And also we have like helped a lot of organizations, associations to change and revolutionize their guidelines of management. So it has been a real experience and a challenging time as well in terms of providing good clinical data to the world in terms of changing and challenging these guidelines of current patient management.
Dr. Namal, over last few interactions with you and the Remedium One team, it's been an enlightening journey for me, understanding Sri Lanka, the healthcare system in Sri Lanka. But for our listeners who might not be fully aware, can you tell us a little bit more about the healthcare system in Sri Lanka? Why is it one of the preferred destinations for conducting clinical studies?
Great. That's one of the, I think, interesting things that everybody should know about the healthcare system in Sri Lanka. So basically, we have a lot of tertiary care hospitals. The population of Sri Lanka is somewhere around 23 million, and many get access to these hospitals directly. So not having a very well tightly planned the GP practice, like there's no significant referral system in Sri Lanka. Most of the patients, they get direct access to doctors in seconds. So they get to visit these government hospitals, which are free of charge at the point of receipt. So patients do not have to worry about having insurances. They just, when they have illness, they just can walk into a hospital and they can get the best treatment available at that hospital. So as I mentioned, Purav, basically the tertiary care hospitals are specialized care centers. They have a lot of doctors who are specialized in tertiary care level management, for example, cardiovascular diseases, or going beyond to oncology and rheumatology and the ENT surgeries. And we have a lot of tertiary care level management best specialized care at these tertiary care centers. But like when you focus away from the most popular population-based areas in Sri Lanka, just like the Western Province and the Central Province, and going to the Northwestern, most of these provinces have well-designed tertiary care level hospitals where patients have direct access, as I mentioned earlier. So these hospitals do actually cater in terms of many investigations such as MRIs, CTs as well. So when the patients go to one of these hospitals, they get a health evaluation done as early as possible for their disease management. But I'm not talking only about tertiary care hospitals, but we have base hospitals, district general hospitals, and rural hospitals, and district hospitals, and so on. All these hospitals are basically centers where we treat patients free of charge, and these patients are being managed by specialized doctors who are trained in their overseas training in UK, Australia, many centers of excellence, as well as they have good level of knowledge in terms of managing the patients at the cutting edge. So basically the real world evidence is one of the things that we are looking forward, as well as currently we have started working with these consultants at the moment, because that we understand that we can do so much for the pharma companies and the biotech companies like who are looking for real world evidence in the field of clinical trials in Sri Lanka.
Dr. Namal, before we go a little deeper into real world evidence, one more question connected to the healthcare system. So out of this larger healthcare system, can you tell us a little bit more about the Remedium One network? How many hospitals, how many specialities do you cover?
Yeah, Remedium One is, as I mentioned you earlier, is one center of excellence, a one-stop shop where people can come in and discuss with us and get whatever the service that they want in terms of clinical trials. So my level of expertise is basically on the operational aspect. But if you really look at Remedium One, we have different services organized at the moment in terms of startups getting regulatory approvals, as well as providing feasibility data in terms of like understanding our capacities in terms of serving in terms of clinical trials, as well as we have a lot of logistical support as well on the ground. So if you want certain trials implemented in Sri Lanka, like going to the regulatory authorities, as well as like submitting these approvals for the ethics committees, and all these other relevant approvals are being taken from Remedium, are being facilitated from Remedium One for these clients. So coming to your question about how the records are being maintained, as well as like how well that we are looking ahead in terms of facilitating activities, is basically like we have these patients being managed at the hospital level on clinic basis most of the time. So these patients carry clinical records in terms of clinic books. So these things are documented in a very methodical way, just like it's been done at the Western countries. For example, like documenting the history, documenting the examination findings, as well as like making sure that we order the investigations accordingly and coming to a diagnosis as early as possible, and as well as providing the best possible treatment for these patients. So whatever that we come across is being documented in English on these books. So whoever that wants to know what's going on with the required approvals, we can give away these informations in a best possible way, that we maintain the confidentiality of the patients, and as well as like we have consent from the patients to go through ahead with these details. So apart from the clinic books, Pura, we maintain some records at the hospital level when the patients are getting admitted. So those are called bed head tickets, and all these things are documented in English, and almost all the labs and the testing are being done at accredited laboratories inside the hospital, as well as whatever the other laboratories that we utilize are CAP certified accredited laboratories. So the data that we have at the moment is a huge pool of data, which is very reliable and are being managed and done by qualified people in terms of managing these patients in Sri Lanka. As well as like when you really want to like follow up on the patients, we have these patients being fully compliant in terms of coming into hospitals again and again. They usually do not skip doctors. Like once you are being managed by one single doctor, most of these patients end up with this doctor again and again for the fact that they are satisfied with the treatment, and most of the time they get attached to the doctor and they get followed up throughout. So the data get pulled up in a better possible way, that we understand how the trends have been. So if you are referring this patient to another special care doctor, for example, if we are managing a patient who has diabetes and on top of that the patient develops a heart attack and you want to see a cardiologist's opinion, the patients are being properly referred and the cardiologist manage and the patient get referred back to the physician again for the rest of the management. Or else, like if you want rehabilitation and exercises, they get referred to a sports specialized doctor so that they will get the best possible management that is anywhere available in the world.
Understood. So a couple of things that I take away, if I have to summarize, where are because of this very tertiary nature, what's happening is patients are not referred too much across facilities. They continue to come to one facility and there is a high retention. So now the longitudinality, both within a disease, let's say like cardiovascular, is very high. But also if I have to see that what gastric care the cardiovascular patient received, or what else they went for in terms of a checkup, everything is relatively easy available in one place, and somebody can retrieve this and study in depth over a very longish period, which becomes very important when it comes to real world evidence. Now, Dr. Namal, the another question which always companies have when it comes to our side of the world is, what is the degree of this data that is digitized today? What are the efforts that you as an organization have started in that particular area?
Yeah. So Purav, like as you said, like retrieving some of this data becomes challenging in terms of when you document these things on a paper-based model. So Remedium One, along with our stakeholders, we have come up with a unique product called One Glance. So this is a digital platform where we enter these data about patients. Currently, we have actually started in Sri Lanka. We have, with the help of many consultants, we have diabetes, nephrology, and oncology clinics who have already started working on this One Glance platform, where we pool clinical data of patients because if you really look at like retrieving data as well as like seeing the patterns of data as well as understanding how well we can serve the patients in terms of creating more awareness as well as like understanding the more risk in the future for the patients. So we have started accordingly implementing this unique product called One Glance at the state sector hospital level. So I think that is one of the best things that we have started doing in Sri Lanka. I know that the history of medicine has been almost always on a paper-based role, but now many have moved out of that and they are maintaining these electronic records due to many reasons like retrieval as well as better patient care, better patient management, as well as like understanding and like figuring out certain mathematical models that can help the hospitals in terms of planning their health services as well as like logistically understanding even how much of metformin has been gone in the hospital for the last 1 year and planning for the next year as well. So these are just simple things, but if you really look at, they can strategically plan at a grassroots level how much attention that can be given for patients better outcome.
That is the beauty of successful RW initiatives that I have seen, that you identify practical use cases, very simple things like capacity planning, so that these efforts start paying for themselves and then get towards addressing more complex issues over a period of time. Because if you have to change the care protocol on a chronic disease, it takes time to change the protocol, and you see the results over a period of few years. So it's always an important balance to have. So one question I have, right? So how do you see the future here? So are there going to be more and more efforts across different disease areas to digitize this data? If a pharma company, let's say, or a research company wants to come and work with Remedium One today, in let's say an area like immunology where you might not have digitized data set, how should they approach you? How would you address that request?
Yeah, sure. So for basically, like if somebody wants to work with us in terms of real world evidence and start working on capturing data in terms of patients' clinical data, maybe if they want to see the blood pressure trends, or maybe they want to see how well that the patients have been on treatment for a long time, maybe like, so as you basically mentioned, like say We can consider a model like maybe diabetes, or as you said, immunology, rheumatology, you name it, like whatever the therapeutic area that they want to start working with us. Basically, we can this One Glance platform is a global unique platform that we have developed in terms of capturing data. So actually, we can discuss with them and get their objectives, and what you call with our developers, we can actually like see what are the areas that they want. For example, like say immunology, and they want to understand certain things about maybe COVID, maybe like how well the immune assays has been in terms of antibody levels, or else going beyond to that, even at a genetic level, how well the vaccines have helped them. Because like Sri Lanka, when we actually started managing COVID, like as everybody, like we didn't have much of information, but most of the immunologists and the microbiologists and other consultants, the physicians, they helped the Sri Lankan government quite a lot in terms of understanding the variants, as well as like understanding how well that we can facilitate in terms of understanding the disease background of these patients. So if somebody wants to really start considering Sri Lanka in terms of rare diseases, or else like orphan diseases, what we call very often, in terms of like helping these patients who are not being very well focused, because we always talk about diabetes, hypertension, many non-communicable diseases, because that's where the pharma is. But I'm not talking about that it's a bad thing, but it's always a good thing. But it's always good to facilitate patients who have rare diseases, maybe like rare oncology problems, like hematological issues, like myeloid leukemias, maybe like going beyond to paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinurias. Like there are certain disease entities that we really want to embark and see whether we can facilitate. So if somebody is really interested, of course, we have the patients in Sri Lanka, and also they are being managed at good tertiary care level hospitals, which has various degree of investigations to help these patients out. And we really can work out and discuss a model in terms of helping them and facilitating them, as well as like giving the data that they want in terms of managing these patients in real world evidence. Yes.
Just one more question. So, as they say with all great transformations, sometimes the biggest barriers are not external but internal, right? And have you seen through such resistance from PIs, from IT, from the hospitals, as you start adopting the real world evidence model more and more?
Purnam, that's actually a very good question, because most of the people, they have their strongest grounds on the hard roots wired, saying that like they resist a change. But many doctors, as well as many young people who are actually working at the hospitals, they do understand that things has to get revolutionized. And they know that without clinical research, as well as without capturing data, without analyzing the data, they will not be in a position to help the patients in a better methodical way. If you see the trends only, they'll be able to help the patients. So I think a lot of awareness has gone into the youngsters' heads, as well as like the young consultants, as well as the doctors who are working with us at the moment. So they are being motivated to understand that if they don't do research, if they don't analyze what they have, if they don't go back a little bit and see how their patients have done with certain medications, if they don't see how well that the patients have been managed with their ordering of investigations, and these analytical and research-based factors are really important. So there has been some resistance, but RemediumOne was in a position to like leave these things and talk to the consultants over, and also get their support. And that's why I think for the last couple of years, when we started working with One Glance, we have captured a lot of data, and our diabetic the pool of data at the moment has around 2,000 patient records at the moment, and we have captured these information. And with that, last year we were able to win one award at the Sri Lankan College of Endocrinologists by using these data sets that we have gathered for endocrinology. So that's one of the biggest achievements that we had in a short period of time, by capturing a lot of data and analyzing the data, and we were able to present a publication at the Sri Lankan College of Endocrinologists. And we have actually started analyzing the data that we have at the moment, as you said, like to understand how well that we can project, as well as to help the patients. So it has been a little shaky period in between then and there, but now I think with the understanding, and when they see the results, everybody has started walking in a best possible, in a positive manner, to facilitate the data capturing in terms of real world evidence.
That's well said. I think nothing kind of generates more momentum than demonstrating initial success, initial results. So, Dr. Namal, any parting message for our audience? I think this has been an incredibly helpful and educational discussion. Any parting message for our audience as we leave?
Yeah, Purav, I think just to capture a few things that we discussed, I just want to summarize a little bit about Sri Lanka and Remedium One. So for the last many years, when we were doing clinical trials, we realized that our patients are one of the most compliant patients in the world because they get so attached to the doctor and in terms of their patient diseases. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but in a good possible way, that the patients get treated to the maximum. Because being a doctor in this field for more than 15 years, I understand the level of care and the love that we have in terms of managing our patients and giving them the best possible treatment that is available in our facility. So if we are not in a position to provide them, even with diagnostic facilities like laboratories, or else like getting them transferred to a tertiary care level hospital in terms of managing them with specialized care. So it has been always I'm not saying it's always a smooth run, but we have taken steps to manage the challenges, and we have seen the results. So with that, the compliance has been really good with the patients. We know that because we have done a lot of ground level community-based clinical trial activities, ground level academic clinical activities, so that we understand the compliance of our patients has been really good in terms of drug adherence, as well as the record maintenance has been really good, because they have been thoroughly motivated to maintain their clinic books, as well as to make sure, even though they go to a general practitioner then and there for their acute illnesses like fever, cough and cold, certain things like that. But if they are a diabetic patient, they make sure that they carry that clinic book to that doctor and tell, I'm a patient managed at this hospital by this doctor for diabetes, and I'm on these drugs. And can you please be kind enough to document whatever the problem that I have in the at the moment. So doctors usually utilize one piece of information and they document these things in a one sheet. So it's easy for the other doctors to manage these patients. So when they see these patients, so this language is very clear. As well as if you really look at what we really want to achieve in Sri Lanka in terms of health, we actually want to be the best in terms of patient care, facilitating the health care, as well as providing good clinical information to the society. So far, for the trials that we have done, we have gathered so much of important clinical data that is going to help and change the guidelines of management in certain diseases. I think most of our work got published at many international publications. That has really given strength to the doctors who are doing clinical trials. So I think with the collection of data, they have started analyzing in terms of laboratory analysis, as well as patient clinical data analysis. I think these things are going to help the world and other people who want to invest in Sri Lanka in terms of pharmaceutical companies, many local and international pharma biotech companies. I think it's going to create a huge difference in terms of Sri Lanka coming on board to help the real world evidence gathering. So whatever that's available in Sri Lanka in terms of patient management and health record care, I think the One Class has created a huge platform in Sri Lanka as well in terms of EMR, the electronic medical solutions.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Namal. Really appreciate your time and sharing of the insights. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Purav. Thanks for having me today. Thank you so much.